Hi everyone, we're back with Tim Frandy. Tim, I had a lot of fun playing the game with you. I think chat really enjoyed it. Chat seemed to be having a lot of fun. There were, so many ups and downs and
Off and off.
yeah, on and off. There's real drama going on. But it's time to come down and I think have a nice interview with you. Are you ready for some interview questions, Tim?
Absolutely not. But we can do it anyway. I was kind of looking forward to more game, but I suppose if you insist, we can.
All right. I'll try my hardest. I'll try my hardest to see if I can get back to the game in time.
Can you relate every question we have had right now to the game specifically? That way it'll feel more like that.
That's a big
It
ask.
should be a challenge for you.
Yeah, big ask. Tim, I guess our first question we want to ask. Oh, and when I say we, of course, everybody don't forget, especially you, Tim, to thank the intrepid, as always, Folkwise interview sleuths who write these questions. And Tim, if you chuckle or smile, that's not directed at me. I know that it's directed at the sleuths for these questions. So, team effort indeed, Daisy. Tim, I want to get right into your first question, which is, what is applied folklore and how do you practice it?
I don't know and I don't care.
Yeah.
It's jargon.
It's okay.
It has no meaning to me. However,
thank God this answer. I was like, what is this?
I'm a horrible person, and I apologize for that in advance. Look, I'm not one to dwell on definitions or categorizations or obsessive needless characterizations of stuff. I just think that the term gets used in a way that overlaps largely with public folklore. I don't even like the term applied folklore because it sounds so pretentious, stuffy, and Western. And I like public folklore as a term. Historically it was used to talk about public presentations of folklore, which is a thing, and it's a thing of value. But I think there's a whole corpus of techniques that public folklorists use that are outside the let's put folklore on a stage model. And, it involves working in communities. It involves shoring up aspects of culture where they maybe need to be a little reinforcement, a little fertilization of the ground to help the seeds grow in an organic way that doesn't fossilize the culture. So there's a whole wide range of techniques we can have when doing culture work that we can incorporate to advance the self-interest of a community. So that's sort of what applied folklore, public folklore, is about generally.
And what specific?
I'm cantankerous. I'm sorry.
No.
I will push back against every question.
You know what?
Pigeonhole.
If you did that, Tim, you would keep the same flow as the game had.
Yes.
Yeah, you keep the adrenaline going up and down like the game had. So
we wouldn't want you to respond in any other way that isn't like absolutely you. So like that's the point. Yeah.
So this isn't going to be broadcast until I have tenure, right? Because
you let me know. Let me know.
This isn't live, is it? Is this all going to be edited?
I mean, yeah. And I guess so. All of like the strategies or methods you were describing there in that answer. What does that look like in the kind of work you do?
Well, it depends on which setting. I mean, I've done a lot of work in the Lac du Flambeau Anishinaabe community. It all emerges from what happened for 100 years, right? Profound culture loss, profound stigmatization, profound belief that's internalized racism, that where people cycle through the despair that's endemic to culture loss, and attack each other for trying to bring back the culture. So some of my friends in the community, when in the early 80s, before spearfishing rights were regained, were mocked for practicing traditional culture, called Little Drummer Boy, for instance, for being interested in traditional ceremonies. Internalizing settler racist taunts and insults and such. But things started changing. There were always some people who kind of kept the culture alive. Some old timers that kind of lose a generation in there. Some people from, I guess, whoever is older than the Boomer generation kept some stuff alive. And when following civil rights movement and the American Indian movement of the 70s, it became more okay, and it became an act of political resistance and an act of strength to take interest in your own cultural background rather than a source of weakness. So this manifests over the course of many years and blossoms into people finding strength and empowerment through practicing their culture. So that's sort of the backstory. But like what I do is actively try to work against those forces. So every February, now going on, I think this is the 10th year, we would host an Ojibwe Winter Games on lake ice in Lac du Flambeau, where grades 5 through 8, well, 4 through 8 technically, would come out and compete in like an Olympic style round table of like 6 different wintertime Ojibwe competitive activities, games, sports, like traditional lacrosse, which is played not on a course, but rather through woods and fields. Not with a goal, but with a single pole sticking up, which was a sacred game in the community. We would have the kids would make their own sticks and everything. We do the snow snake game, in which you create long pole-like staffs that are decorated to look like snakes, and they'd be varnished with traditional materials. And you would carve like a trough down the lake ice, and you throw it for distance. And you can. If you have clear ice with no snow on it, you can throw a snow snake maybe about a half mile across the lake ice.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's weighted traditionally with stones, but we use like pewter sort of filling just to give it the right balance. Mm-hmm. It's so fun. You can stand 2 people apart, you just whip snakes back and forth. And it was an old hunting technique that was used because in the late spring when the snow melts and the crust forms on top of the snow, it's strong enough you can walk on in a good winter. So like the rabbits with the snowshoe hares with the long feet can just walk across the top of the snow. And you could take one of those prior to the game, like a spear that was designed to skid on the top of that ice and knock off the rabbits or other small game like grouse. It was a hunting tool that became a game. So we got kids doing this, and year after year, the first year we did it, the kids were like, "What is this? This old stuff? We're 13 years old and everything sucks." But after they start doing it year after year, you could see them get more and more invested in the outcome, and you could see them get. They wanted to win. They really took it seriously. Winning was a very big honor. We gave them nice medallions for winning, and those kids that came out have cultural literacy. Mm-hmm. They've got the tools when they have kids in however many years. They're going to have a traditional game that they can give to their kids that they haven't just read about in books, but they've touched, they've experienced, they've had lived reality with this sort of stuff. And it improves the quality of their lives directly. And it comes back over and over. So, stuff like that, and is sort of like the work I do, and it's incredibly rewarding, and I'm lucky to work with such amazing community partners who do so much of the work and on behalf of their community and for their community.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bubbly Like Soda was there. She knows.
Yeah. She's mentioning that in chat. That's great.
Yeah, I'm still working on that film, Bubbly.
That is really cool. So, Tim, I think the next thing I wanna ask is, kind of as a spin-off to that, in your role as a folklorist who works with Indigenous communities, how do you assist them in their efforts to repatriate cultural knowledge lost to sort of colonial and assimilationist pressures?
Well, I mean, it starts and ends with the community.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my role to say, "Hey, look at this. That you need to revitalize this." But
Yeah.
usually, when things revitalize, it's because of the right feeling in the air. Right?
Uh-huh.
There's a lack in the community where this one tradition that's maybe been lost can make a difference in today's life, right? I mean, you think about Glassy's definition of tradition as the creation of the future out of the past. This is, and you know, you think about all the postmodern discourses.
Yeah.
We selectively read traditions. Yes, absolutely, we do, and we do it for a reason, and that reason is political because it affects our well-being today. It affects the lives of our children and grandchildren, and so of course we very purposefully select things that are impactful in the community, and for my partners, and you know, not me. I mean, honestly, a lot of times these come in dream visions. I get calls from my friend. I had a dream last night, and this is what I saw, and this is what we're doing. And so we do it, and it works because dream visions work
Yeah.
in that setting. Um, so what I do, I set up the logistics to make it happen. Largely, we need money for it. I go out and get grants. We need partners to elevate it. Sure, I know people. We need bodies on the ground to shovel a trough 300 yards long in 3 feet of snow. I'll do it till my back hurts, and then keep going. We need people to document this stuff and push it out to show the good work that's happening here because it's impactful in other communities. Yeah, absolutely. We've got all these tools that we can bring into these projects and not lead, but still be essential personnel on making them happen because we share in the belief that this work is powerful and important. So that's what folklorists do, or what I do anyway, in working with Indigenous communities.
Yeah.
That's such a, I don't know. I'm like, that's like the way I want to understand like my work as a folklorist. And so it's kind of cool to hear that articulation of it. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. They're making me think about agroforestry, doing forest farming.
Yeah,
Cool.
so I think kind of knowing where I assumed Daisy would go with that. Yeah, I think I want to go to this next question and ask you what's the relationship in your work or in folklore in general between indigenous rights and environmental protection.
Um, that's a complicated question,
Yeah.
and one that needs a step back to think how I'm going to answer. In protecting environments doesn't mean what most people think it means.
Mm-hmm.
When, you know, probably you've all heard the tropes like wilderness is a Western fantasy, and are like American attempts to create a national park system that preserves this wilderness is preserving this idealized concept that never existed, but instead it's basically creating a playground of this or world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, this carries over. How we've managed our forest isn't just as much. I mean, there's science there, right? But there's also a intellectual tradition that literally goes back more than 1,000 years over how we care for our environment. And I'm just talking like Western Europe, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do we protect declining animal populations? Well, the first thing that was going on in Europe, like in 800 ACE or CE, whatever, was people were saying, poor people can't go there. Right. We still do this today.
Mm-hmm.
Poor people can't hunt there. Rich people can hunt there, but poor people can't hunt there. And this is like the core of our environmental protection strategy for game. Like,
Yeah.
why not let poor people who need the food, give them hunting rights first, and say, rich people, you're fine. You don't need this. Like, that thought never crosses anybody's mind. So, I mean, there's cultural strategies that built in this, and these ideas have history. These are traditional Western epistemologies about what an environment is, how we take care of it, and what we're going to manage. And in its most crude form, it comes out like, we're going to protect a forest by protecting it for, we'll cut down these trees, and then we'll plant this monocultural plantation, which we can harvest for maximum profits, which of course invites invasive species in, which causes ecosystem collapse, and disturbs the habitat because biodiversity is essential for a healthy forest. So if you look at traditional indigenous sustainability measures, they differ incredibly from what's been common in Western Europe for a long time. So if you are talking about protecting fish populations, it's not a one fish out means less fish sort of mentality. Instead, you're looking at a system more holistically. To protect the fish, you protect the water quality, which means protecting the lakeshore. So keep those houses off the lakes. If you are, or similarly, keep dams from flowing. In Sami culture, in salmon rivers, you're never supposed to walk in the riverbed because that stirs and disturbs spawning grounds, spawning habitats. So you're never supposed to go in rivers. Or you're supposed to, in Anishinaabe culture and Sami culture, you can see that there are resting patterns. In Sami culture, you don't fish for salmon for certain moon phases traditionally. In Anishinaabe culture, you would rotate your fishing lakes so that you would fish a lake hard for a certain number of years, and then you would rest it to allow for a period of recovery. And these things were effective. And when they brought back systems of ecological management like that in Jamaican fisheries, wildly successful. So, that's that. And you could talk about forests too. The forests in the Lac de Flambeau Reservation, where I'm most familiar, are managed mostly. Tribal lands are managed by the tribe. They're hunted extremely heavily. The trees are harvested regularly for firewood because a lot of people burn their own wood for food. It's the most diverse forest in the state. More biological diversity. Deer numbers the deer are larger, they're healthier, they eat better. The DNR wants lower numbers of deer, so they just say hunt more, but they're not changing the ecosystem as a system. So when you're thinking about Indigenous environmental management, you have to understand that people are managing what they perceive as environments in certain ways that sustain their culture, and you can't take a Western sense of environmental management, impose it on Indigenous lands, and expect it to produce the outcomes that are going to sustain what's been a stable system for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Full AFS high. Thank you.
I'm feeling too. That was. And I'm glad you said you had to take a step back because it really put everything in perspective. I thought it was a great answer.
I rambled.
Can I ask you?
I disagree. That got there.
Yeah. Can I ask you a hot take question?
Sure.
It's a follow-up to this.
Okay.
How do you feel about the term traditional ecological knowledge?
So it's okay.
Okay.
I
was curious.
Nah.
It's for those who've not heard this phrase before, it's used a lot in I guess anybody working in sustainability and the environment recently is throwing this around. I'm worried it's becoming a buzzword. But basically it's just to prioritize traditional ecological thinking about how to care for a planet, which is coded as Indigenous knowledge, basically. So I'm always curious about how people are using it and if they're actually.
It's overused. It's overused. It's a useful term as a sort of here's scientific knowledge, here's traditional knowledge. It's not a dichotomy though, because all science is ethnoscience.
Yeah.
All knowledge is traditional knowledge. So it's kind of wishy-washy in a way. And honestly, I don't like a lot of the scholarship that this is shady. I don't love a lot of the scholarship that emerges of it because it's not seeing knowledge as a complex, dynamic process that changes over time. A lot of the stuff I've read is this is traditional ecological knowledge. One, when the birds do this, the weather's going to do this. Two, when the lake ice comes off here, the spawning season will be this. okay, these are tidbits, but this is not how knowledge works. It's like saying that a list of facts is the same thing as knowledge. But knowledge is always negotiated. It's always changing. It's in dialogue with itself in really complex ways. And I would love to see scholars who work with traditional ecological knowledge recognize that it's not a corpus of knowledge in the past that's being eroded, which does have some legitimacy because knowledge loss and cultural loss is a thing, and we have to recognize it as a thing. But knowledge is always, it's protean. It's always changing and evolving and mutating in complex, sometimes tragic, sometimes beautiful ways.
How's that work, Daisy?
Great take. Thanks.
Cold take.
I've been thinking about it. Because it gets tossed
take.
a lot. Yeah, it gets tossed around a lot in some of my classes, and I'm always like, I'm curious.
Flexitron knows how to make me say shady things, so Flexitron can do a chat.
Oh, actually, do you want to ask that last chat question, Daisy? Because I think it's a good follow-up to Tim's response.
From Death Florist?
Yeah.
Yeah, could you frame that like answer as traditional ecological anecdotes rather than traditional ecological knowledge?
You know, the term that I like, you can. The term I like to use is native science or indigenous science, or indigenous ecologies or indigenous sustainabilities is a term that I use probably too often. Just because it's like, oh, here's sustainabilities, and here, same thing, same level, rather than attaching it to the baggage that folklore has of being a bunch of superstitions and old wives' tales, and relics of the bygone era, a simpler time. I think that's it. No, native science is science. End of story.
Yeah.
So that's what I like to do. Spicy opinions. Yes, indeed, Flexitron.
It's what the people are here for.
You know, I wish that they weren't spicy.
I wish that this was people's this was the spice tolerance. Yeah, I wish everyone was tolerant. Yeah.
Let the spice flow.
Oh, well. The movie comes out soon. Tim, I know you mentioned the Sami earlier, and I believe you. Is that a Sami flag behind you? Am I right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, yes, it is. So,
yes.
So I guess the contextualization or just broad explanation, who are the Sami, and then what does it mean to you to be part Sami?
Sami we're Arctic, well, not entirely Arctic. We're indigenous people from northern Scandinavia, from the central mountains of Sweden to Norway, throughout the north of Finland into the Kola Peninsula of Russia. Traditionally, Sami people have been associated with reindeer herding, which is sort of an erroneous, exoticizing stereotype because many Sami people have done things like herd sheep on the coasts of Norway since the Viking era.
Sure.
In Finland, and southern Sweden, Sami people worked as farmers. Everywhere people fished, just like other Nordic people. But from like a legal standpoint, Sami are the only recognized indigenous peoples in Europe. There are about 13 languages. Most of them are critically threatened. The largest has 20,000 speakers, and the smallest is probably under like 5.
Wow.
We will see. There's been 3 Sami languages that have died since I started working in Sami communities.
Wow.
It's a serious situation.
Wow.
Like indigenous people everywhere, throughout the rise of the Enlightenment, Sami people were traditionally stigmatized for engaging in cultures that were branded as primitive and backward and fourth world. And the lands, which were fairly well maintained, healthy ecological systems, were purposed for exogenous resource management. So there have been efforts to homestead Sami territories. There have been efforts to extract energy, minerals, timber, and repurpose Sami subsistence economy for tourism in the north. And this stuff still is going on today. I guess in 1980, the Sami, inspired in part by the American Indian movement, Sami people experienced a cultural awakening and rise to the Alta Dam conflict in Norway, where a few dozen Sami activists went to Oslo, put up a lavu, which looks like a teepee, but is a traditional reindeer herding structure, and engaged on a hunger strike that lasted several weeks, which gained international publicity and sympathy for Sami people's rights as indigenous people. But Norway built the dam anyway, and but decided to appropriate some resources towards Sami cultural preservation. I don't know. I don't know what else you want me to say. It's connected to the broader Finno-Ugric cultures and language families. There's similarities.
Yeah.
Like linguistically, it's fairly close to Finnish, but it's pretty different. It's further than Italian and French, for instance.
Yeah.
It's maybe German and English close. What else do you want to know? That's
I think that's helpful context. Course. I think that's helpful context for the chat who may have just been like, "What?" You know.
I guess the further thing, like the further question I'd want to ask is perhaps like I mean, you talked about their like Sami people in Scandinavia, but what's like the experience of like Sami people in America?
Yeah, so there's two waves of Sami settlement that occur in North America. The first happened as early as the 1860s to about 1910 or so, and where Sami people, especially from marginalized Sami communities, like where in farming communities where there was lots of intermixing with Finns and Swedes, or along the coast of Norway, where shipping and fishing like brought these cosmopolitan Arctic areas together. You had a bad economy, you had people who didn't like you, and you had a way to escape.
Yeah.
Unlike the people in the interior and the mountains who had reindeer herds and really just were mostly left alone. So the first wave was people who came with other Nordic immigrants, and when they found in the New World, since they were all Sami people were necessarily multilingual, hey, they could pass pretty well because Anglo-Americans couldn't tell the difference between a Norwegian and a Sami person. In the Nordic communities, everybody knew. Oh, you talk with one of those accents. Oh, your features are dark, and that means that you're one of those people. But over time, most Sami people were able to pass as Nordic American or Scandinavian or Finnish Americans. And there were semi-pejorative terms that were used in the communities, like Black Finn, Black Norwegian, to describe Sami people. And like Black Finn was a term that I heard growing up. We were Black Finns and didn't know. Yeah, didn't know what it meant. Yeah, so that was one wave. And so a lot of people had this hidden heritage because it was so shameful. There's stories that my former advisor Tom told me about. Like he teaches a Sami culture course, and told many weeks on Sami culture. And this one student was all excited about it, went home, and told her grandfather, and her grandfather got really, really stoic, like, really withdrawn. And she's like, "Did I say something that upset him?" The next morning, he came up and he said, "I have something to show you." And he walked her down. This is like 20 years ago. 15 years ago, not that long ago. He walked her down to the basement, opened a trunk, pulled out a gakti, traditional Sami clothing, and said, "I've been keeping this a secret for 60 years.
Wow.
And if you see value if you told me about your course, and you see value in this identity, I don't feel like I need to hide this any longer." This is 2005.
Wow. Yeah.
2005. The shame is real, and the shame lasted in this community, and it was hidden. So since 1990, under the work of some Sami Americans like Faith Fjeld, Arden Johnson, Solveig Johnson, people like that, people started to organize and gather collectively and started to reintegrate traditions that were absolutely moribund or dead into the community and make new connections. So it's a really interesting diaspora community.
Yeah, sounds
Even,
like it.
even more interesting is the story of the Alaskan Sami, though. The Alaskan Sami were. I need to
I love
No,
the
no, no,
sigh.
no, no,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
no. Now I'm invested. Do you have time to get into it?
Yeah, I do, but I'm talking too much.
It's your
No,
interview.
not at all. This is great. Yeah.
We have a cultural discourse of quietude, Dom. We aren't supposed to keep talking.
It.
It does not work well. However, in the 1890s, and I'm blanking on the exact year, maybe 1896. No, back it up a little bit. Early 1890s, maybe 1880s, there was a lot of starvation among Yupik, or call themselves Yupik Eskimo communities in certain parts of Alaska. At the time, the dominant cultural evolutionary form of thinking was that hunters need to become herders, or pastoralists, who need to become agriculturalists, who need to become industrialists, who need to become late capitalists,
Yeah.
to advance along the chain of human evolution. And so there were people in the government who were like very trying to do right and instead doing harm, and decided that they needed to usher in an era of turn these hunters into reindeer herders, which was successful in regions of Siberia. So the first thing they did is they brought Chukchi reindeer herders over from Siberia, easternmost Siberia, not fully realizing that they'd been sort of enemies with Inuit people for about 1,000 years. It didn't go well. Then a professor at the University of Wisconsin-Madison in the Scandinavian Studies Department, where I did my PhD work, named Rasmus B. Andersson, whose portrait hung in our little conference meeting room as a big white-haired gentleman of Norwegian descent. The great idea that, there's reindeer herders in Norway, we should get some of them. So he worked with some branch of the federal government, Department of the Interior, I think, to get several families of reindeer herders from Kautokeino, Norway, take them on boats through the United States. They went to New York, took trains with reindeer all the way to Seattle, stopping at major cities on their way on what ultimately proved to be a tourist tour, as Christmas was emerging as a tradition, and Anglo-Americans had embraced the idea that Santa is associated with reindeer following the publication of whose poem that Twas the Night Before Christmas? I think that's one of the very first reindeer references in terms of Santa.
Sure.
Which is from, I think, the 1830s, 1820s. And so there was like Macy's is kind of, this scene is emerging. So like, hey, Sami people will march you and your reindeer in this parade. Okay, whatever. We're just passing through to Alaska. So there's photos of them in like New York, Chicago, I think Minneapolis, definitely Seattle. And then they took boats up to Alaska, where they started teaching reindeer herding, and it went really well. The communities got along fantastically. There's a whole class of material artists. They intermarried regularly. There's a whole community of people who are both of Sami and Inuit heritage who live together. Material culture blended in interesting ways. You can see shoe forms with the upcurled toe boot. Actually, I have one right here.
Wow.
Boot, it curls up. Like the wintertime boots, it curls up even higher, and there's fur on the outside. And the point is that you put a ski binding, a leather strap is here, so you can cross-country ski. So you'd have aspects like that on designs that were just characteristically Inupiaq. So you'd have hybrid material culture forms, and things went well for a period of the 30s, I think. And then the U.S. government passed a law that said only Indigenous, well, I forget the language, but only Alaska Native people are allowed to own reindeer. So everyone who was Sami and brought the reindeer over to teach this was suddenly no longer legally allowed to own reindeer. So then they all moved down to Paulsbo, Washington, and there's a large community of Sami Americans there. The ones during that meantime, things get even more interesting because this corresponds with some of the gold rush years up in Alaska.
Sure.
And gold prospectors went up to Alaska for all sorts of reasons. They they weren't very good at living in Alaska. They get snowed in when they were prospecting and get stuck. And so horses don't do really well in big, deep snows. So they were very hard to rescue if people got stuck, but reindeer do really well. And so the reindeer, there were Sami patrols of rescue squads that were saving all these gold miners from imminent death in Alaska. They had regular paths, which became ultimately trails, which became the Alaskan highway system. And so there's some Sami folks in Alaska today, and there's some of that community is alive in Washington State, and they have a kind of a different story because it wasn't seen as shameful or hidden, unlike the earlier migrants. So that's the other story.
It was fascinating. There were twists and turns and yikes and
what?
A lot.
Oh my gosh.
Tim, one of the things that we at Folkwise enjoy the most about you is that you value mentorship of new humanities scholars, and you're like a lot of people's mentor in the field of folklore.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, well, I insist.
Well, the rest of us do.
Yeah, everyone else does. What are some other avenues you find yourself encouraging early career scholars to explore as folklorists?
Avenues?
Yeah.
Like not like non-traditional career paths, or
you were talking about doing public health earlier.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do stuff that gets you money because you need to eat.
I mean,
because you're the humanities and grad school is awful and hard and it's an oppressive structure and we need to obliterate it completely, or at least radically reform it. So, advice works different for different people. What worked for me was broadening my reach as far as I could. I felt like I was qualified to do folklore, qualified to do Nordic studies, qualified to do Indigenous studies. I've got a master's in English. I can do literary studies, even though they don't want anything to do with me because I tried that route. Because if you're coming up with a PhD in Scandinavian studies, there's like 500 applications from English. Like you don't make that first cut. Plus, I'm just not very good at what I do, so that helps too. But it's really hard to finish up a terminal degree now, like whether it's master's or PhD. It's brutal out there. It's been brutal since before the time I came out. And I think I finished mine in 2013. So you need to be prepared to make that first job into your, if you want an academic job, right? Like you have to prepare to make each stepping stone a new area of what you do. So, if you're teaching at a community college or whatever, make PET where you can't do anything but teach, where you're adjuncting. Make pedagogy your subdiscipline. For me, it was public health. Like I got a job in public health that I wasn't qualified for, working with Native communities because I basically said traditional concepts of health matter, and we need to respect that. So what did I get out of it? I got to do 3 years employed, and then many years after that of research in the communities. I got I built up a whole field around health that I'm still waiting to publish on because I'm so backed up with work. But I made the most of it, and I diversified my field. Does that work for everyone? No. Some people get lucky and want to do one thing really passionately, and that works for them. But being creative and strategic in the choices you make in grad school and your in early career stages, personally, I think they make a big difference because otherwise you're just rolling the dice and not maximizing the chances that anyone's going to care what you do, because most people don't give a shit about what we do. And there's no jobs anyway. And all you can do is put yourself in the best possible position and hope that you get lucky. I got really lucky. and that's how it goes. I got hired for a job for things I don't even do. Historic preservation, museums. I do some museum stuff, and vernacular architecture, which, I mean, I've learned to do 2 of them, but like, that's what it is out there. That's what it is.
Sure. That was a great answer.
That's a really good answer. Everybody is also agreeing that Bubbly Like Soda particularly says best mentor, and everybody's really
She's lying. She's lying. I will destroy you, Bubbly Like Soda. You think you have a career in this field? Not
Don't.
anymore.
Oh my God! Don't clip that. She just got a job.
Oh my God.
Well, I see you in the chat. Your pink slip is waiting for you when you report to the office tomorrow.
Ooh, breaking news.
Breaking news, everyone.
No, it's really brutal out there, and I mean, and you know, the one thing, I get this. I hate competitions.
Yeah.
I really despise them. And the surface. I mean, I was asked by the nominating committee to run for the executive council of AFS. I was like, I don't even want to do that. I don't like that. I don't like that feeling of competition. It really is off-putting to me. And there was a point in my grad school career where I was like, other people applied for the same job I am, and you know, who's better? But we're all on the same team, and we all need to create opportunities for each other. We all need to get each other's backs and help where we can. And if somebody else gets that job that you really wanted, you know, that's maybe an opportunity for you down the road. And if we take care of each other as a field, good things will happen to us all and for us all. And it's a better way to exist than this like race to the top,
bloodthirsty battle to singular victory where everyone's left behind you at the top. Yeah.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
Tim, I'd like to ask some questions that I arbitrarily find more fun, but
okay,
let's get into it. What's your favorite Finnish food?
Finnish.
Yeah.
Well, the three things.
Okay.
Do I have to choose one? No, three.
Name three. Name three.
One is called juustoleipä. Okay. Which is, it translates as cheese bread. Ooh. And what it is, if you get fresh milk, it has to be unhomogenized.
Yeah.
And it's a fresh milk curdling process with rennet, and it's baked in the oven. Oh. And it forms these like discs like this, and it's browned on top. And traditionally you serve it by either with cloudberry jam on top, or you dip it in coffee until it gets nice and melty, and it squeaks like a cheese curd.
Yes,
it's way better than a cheese curd. That is amazing, and I'm able to make it. Except I can't find quality enough milk because Joel is not finding me my raw milk supply. I
called out order. Hear that, chat? One of you has betrayed Tim.
Best mentor my ass.
Joel, get the raw milk. Let's go.
Yeah, that's an old food, and that's something I got to grow up with because even though I didn't grow up with the language, I had to learn it as an adult. We had a lot of the foodways. We had a sour form of yogurt that was really stringy called vilja. We had the squeaky cheese, which we called it in English, was the best of the best. Lots of venison. We didn't have salmon, but we ate a lot of fish. But I mean, I'll just stick with squeaky cheese for now. Otherwise, I can talk your ear off about other foods too.
Tim, I had a question that came up reading your CV. How does a stranger know what a squirrel eats?
It doesn't.
Well, I'm so glad I
learned. Yeah.
And can you briefly say like what that question is in relation to?
It's not clear. Proverbs, huh?
Yeah.
Proverbs can mean multiple things, or it might be unclear sometimes.
So perhaps.
It's like so it's
This is a Sami proverb. How does a stranger know what a squirrel eats? Which is basically used for situations where this is none of your business. You don't know what's going on here, and you need to stay out of it. You don't know how I live my life as a squirrel. Like, what do you know? You don't know what I eat. So
So anybody who read further than the title missed the point. In a way.
So, I mean, if you're reading my CV, it's in reference to an article I published about this idea of Indigenous sustainabilities, and that sometimes the proverb is used in reference to colonial situations. You Norwegians don't understand us, and so why are you coming up here and telling us how to live our lives? Or telling us what to do in our own house? And this is basically like Norwegians coming up and thinking that they know best what's best for Sami environments, when Norway has in fact destroyed most of their salmon populations. So they're going to go up and save Sami salmon populations by enacting their catastrophically failed policies on Sami, the last remaining quality Sami salmon river in the country. So that's what that means.
Awesome.
Tim, if I could, I'd like to ask you a question from chat a while ago.
Long time ago.
Yeah, I believe from Gina Jorgensen's episode, that I think you might be the right person to answer. And that is, can we talk about queerness in the fairy tales of Hans Christian Andersen?
Oh, I don't think I can answer that very wisely. I mean, queerness and... Sure, we can. What should we talk about?
I think she attempted to answer that, but she also said she didn't know. She gave, like, if I remember correctly, like a sort of like a broad answer without getting into a lot of detail. But I mean, is there? That is to say, I think she mentioned that there is like a, I don't know, corpus of scholarship there, or around this topic in relation to Hans Christian Andersen.
Yeah, I mean, I used to... Go ahead, Daisy.
What's missing the point? The Little Mermaid left for a lesbian commune of sprites, and I feel like that's what we're supposed to be talking about. The air and the ethereal transformation at the end of The Little Mermaid is about coming to understand yourself as queer and ending up on a commune somewhere that is focused on the weather. That's what I have to say about that question.
Well,
I'm good with that interpretation.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Daisy.
I mean, I haven't read Andersen's tales for 15 years.
Okay.
So I can't be like, oh, let's look at these things.
Yeah.
But Andersen, well, it's really complicated because Andersen, who lived, let's lie, in 1801 to 1876. I don't know his life and death dates. But the idea of homosexuality as we know it today wasn't even a concept. It was understood in a very different term.
Of course.
Although he obviously, if you look at his diaries and such, was basically what we would call gay today. Expressed profound love for men's beauty, and he was, today it would be pretty clear, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we might want to think about it in terms of. I love queering interpretations of tales, and I think that there's definitely a discourse there to be had. When, like, have you watched Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer at Christmas?
Like the vinyl one?
Like the claymation one.
Yeah, stop motion, yeah.
Yeah. Like, I watched that now and I'm like, how is this not about, like, queerness?
Same. I was like, the island of misfit toys. I get it.
Like, all the signs are there. So, like, it's deep. Like, if you watch, there's all like, like the hair is styled a little bit different on Herbie. The Rudolph is more interested in playing with the girls than the boys. It's like, it's flashy, and
yeah,
there's I watched it, like, because I've got a little kid, and she's 2 now, and I was like, "Boy, this is so." I'm like, I bet these writers were gay. I bet they're closeted. I bet there's stories on this.
Somebody was closeted in that writer's room. I swear to God.
Exactly. Right? How could it not be?
Yeah.
But I dug down that rabbit hole, and I didn't find anything. I was really disappointed. I was like, how could this not be written by the gay mafia? Because I was really, really hoping that it was. And, I don't know. There were a lot of articles that came out about 10 years ago in popular media when people started reading queer started interpreting the program in a queer light.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of counter reaction to that, like, how dare you? It's just about being different. Like, well, that's also queerness, right?
Uh-huh.
But so I think Hans Christian Andersen, who was, I would imagine, he was a very messed up guy. I think he was very, very lonely personally. He was always craving affection. He was born from the lower class, celebrated by the upper class, but never really had like access. If he was into guys, it's just a huge form of social stigma. Like, I think if I were looking at his tales now, which I am not, I would be looking for the ideas of repression and emergence, like the Little Mermaid episode, and how brutal the psychology of heteronormativity was in the 1850s or whatever.
Yeah.
So
that's a good answer. No, I'm
it's
happy with that.
Terrible.
No. You now I want to watch.
They're all gay in Andersen's
now I want to watch
Everybody's
Rudolph this
gay.
Christmas.
Oh, it's worth it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's way.
I'm getting to the point where I'm like, I'm reading stuff, trying to figure out who's the straight one is.
Yeah.
I'm half joking, but
did you know that the film Top Gun has a straight subtextual undertone to it?
No way, really? There's straight people in that movie?
What it's about
Most
guns and tops and
it's about,
I know.
Yeah,
it's about
butts and
volleyball
speedos, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But only the most astute viewers will notice there was a sexual tension between Tom Cruise and the one female and the
wow. Oh, now you mention it.
Most people totally will miss that.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, I'm just too busy thinking about Goose.
Research. You are blowing my mind right now. I gotta return to the subject.
Tim, last one. Can you say I'm a folklorist in every language you know?
No.
No? Is it because you don't know the word folklorist in half the languages you know?
Folklorist is usually just folklorist.
Interesting.
I mean, vi olen folkloristi, mulla folkloristika. Folkloristika, probably, in Sami. Like, these aren't really words that they're all loan words. In Sweden, I'd probably be an ethnologist.
Yeah.
Ethnologist, or something like that. And I couldn't do it in Ojibwe, that's for sure. I don't even know what the word would be.
Including English, is that 5 languages that you speak?
Sorry?
Including English, is that 5 languages that you can speak?
To speak a language and to speak a language is complex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like Finnish, I'm pretty fluent in that. And then there's a couple Sami languages, and one I can speak pretty well, but I understand it perfectly well when it's in the right dialect. And then the other dialect I can read better than I can hear. And then there's Inari Sami, which I can only read. And then I learned some Swedish. So there were points, I had 4 semesters of Swedish or something, and it's close enough to English. I can sit and understand. I've been in work meetings with people talking in Swedish, and I get what's saying, but I can't talk it.
Oh, yeah.
Because it won't come out of my mouth. But because I learned some Swedish, I can understand Norwegian because they're very close. So I can understand Norwegian better than I could. I remember I've been at bars. I could understand Norwegian speaking better than I could understand people talking English with Irish accents. So what is understanding a language anyway?
Huh.
Damn.
Yeah.
What is communicating?
What is
Whoa.
communicating?
Whoa.
Where are we?
I'm also thinking about that because I just watched Come From Away, and that has a lot of like that Newfie accent. Yeah, exactly. So we've just got you still got a little bit of time you're able to spend with us right now. Okay.
Yeah.
Tim, you watched the show. I think you know what comes next. But the
I'm gonna
question.
ask you a chat question while we set this up.
Yeah, ask a chat question while I set it up, Daisy.
Cardboard Fish asked that question about long-haired boys and braiding hair during break so long ago. Do you braid your hair, and how did you learn to braid?
I love having my hair braided. I can't do it myself.
Same.
I had long hair in high school and then got rid of it for a long time and only started growing long hair 5-6 years ago, I guess. So I'm missing a lot of missing a lot of gendered knowledge probably about how to maintain longer hair.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have it and I didn't have people teach me how to do it. So yeah. And I don't have time to do YouTube tutorials and such too, which would be fun.
Yeah.
But like literally, I've been on Zoom and calls since and teaching since noon today. So I just don't have time for things like brushing my teeth anymore.
Surely
that's not true. That's not true.
Surely you can't be says AFS braid chain. Everybody with long hair get
That'd be
braiding.
fun.
That'd be amazing.
That was like the first time my mom saw me since Christmas 19, like first time all pandemic. Like first thing she did was braid my hair. Yeah, exactly.
That's sweet. It's such an act of affection,
right?
Yeah. I love it when people touch my hair or start on my hair. It's just
braid hair.
A nice intimacy.
Yeah.
I guess the only other chat question is Joel Chappening asks, "How much raw milk do you need?"
He said, "I'll drop it off at midnight."
It cooks down so much. I usually buy my biggest kettle holds, I think, about 2.5 gallons. And that'll make 3 little wheels of cheese because a lot of water goes out of that.
You hear that, Joel Chappening?
That's what I need, Joel.
You get that amount?
Yep.
Midnight, delivered.
Drop it off at midnight or you have no future in this field.
I for one love that you keep doing this to Joel of all people.
Joel deserves it. Joel of all people.
Chat's fun, everyone. Chat's fun.
Everyone knows I love Joel very much. So
yeah,
that's all.
Yes.
So do I.
He said, "Okay, I'll get you 3 gallons." Well, if you click watch stream here.
Yeah,
I'm in there. Drag race.
Tim, do you ever find yourself following along with the tier lists when you watch the show?
Yeah, but I don't have a lot of time for pop culture, so I usually don't know what the hell you're talking about. So I assume that, but I know what's going on.
Well,
okay.
We try to give you something that you would know what's going on for your tier list.
Yes.
So dun. Hold on, it's not showing up to the chat.
It's not on stream yet.
Yeah. Let me. I'll get that in just a second. Oh, and I know exactly why. Okay.
Damn, it occurs to me on break I should have gotten in drag.
that would have been fun.
Fun.
Complicated, but fun.
10-minute drag. Can we do it?
Mm-hmm.
Tim, normally when I explain the concept of tier lists on this show, I give people the regular the regular intro about way to rank choices in video games. It's a way to rank things from everyday life, and I normally end that with on a scale from S to D. But on this Drag Race Season 13 tier list that we found, it's on a scale from Stanless to Juicy Ugh. So, what we have here, and YouTube says this is his favorite part of the show every week. What we have here is the RuPaul's Drag Race Season 13 competitors. Can you rank them from roughly S to D, or in this case, stand to
And to
Sure.
Do you want to start? Left to right, or do you want to go right to left on this?
We can go left to right.
Left to right. Okay, left to right. Let's start off. Let's start off with Denali.
Denali, work.
You put right into work.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Fair.
really
Solid.
good queen, Chicago ice skater. Super talented on skates. And absolutely underrated, who was booted from the show tragically too early.
Yeah.
I think for a challenge, the thing wasn't even her fault.
What? Rude.
Next up, we got Elliot with 2 T's.
Meh.
Meh. Right in the middle. Meh.
She had a run on the show that went. She was booted off, and then she came back, and then her stuff was fine. And I mean, all drag queens on the show are amazing queens.
Yeah.
But and these are real people who get a lot of hate on too and such. So I'm not gonna be too shady.
Sure.
Too shady.
Sure.
But it's not my style. It's not my style. It doesn't get me excited when she comes out.
Got it.
I don't know why.
Next up, got Mick.
Absolutely stands fast.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
There will be 2 queens on the stands fast list. And she's one of them.
I agree for this one.
This absolutely iconic looks and funny.
Yeah, hysterical.
Very talented. Doesn't come out of the show rewards and incentivizes musical theater queens, and anyone else who doesn't come from that tradition has an uphill climb. But she made it work as a fashionista, and
it's like kind of like a makeup artist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love all the pale white faces. I loved.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, the creative avant-garde aspect is what really gets me on that show. And I mean, and a lot of that comes from. I mean, you can trace the legacy down. It comes from club kids from the African American community in New York from the 1980s and early 90s. People like Vivacious, who I work with, goes up into the white community, and so for some reason, when it goes to the white community, it becomes massively successful. I wonder who would have thought, right? But no shade to her. She's amazing. For her work.
Next is Joey J.
Joey had a really short run on the show, but I think was slightly underrated. I'm gonna go meh.
Is that top of meh or bottom of meh?
Joey J goes above Denali.
Got it.
Dang.
Wait, above Denali?
No, I'm sorry.
Or above Elliot.
Above Elliot.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it. Top of meh. Next is Kimora Hall.
Who?
Oh!
Literally host.
Literally host.
Mora has amazing looks, and she presents she is wonderful in her own. She's an Instagram queen.
Yeah,
beautiful looks, and her personally, she's amazing because I believe she works in the medical field, and has I think a professional radiologist, if I recall, and has a lot of money to buy like original Bob Mackie gowns, and just looks pretty all the time, but does not bring the diversity of talents compared to the other queens on the show.
Sure.
So,
how about Candy Muse?
I'm gonna go with meh again.
Okay.
Above Joey J.
Okay.
Candy made it farther than she maybe should have, which was probably a disservice to Candy because she got a lot of hate for going too far.
Yeah.
But I think she's a better queen than she presented on the show. I think the show, she saw low budgets that influenced her ability to produce top tier garments every single week. Yeah,
sure.
She's funny. She's a great queen.
She's funny.
Her run on the show was a meh, I think, for me.
Where are we at? We're on Lala Ree.
Can I give a raw milk update?
Raw milk.
Yes.
Boop, 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 boop. Raw milk update.
Raw milk update. Joel says he loves us all, I guess, and that Tim, please don't hurt me. I'll have your milk right away. So it's on the way. I just wanted you to know.
Sigh.
I'm waiting.
Drawn out sigh.
Mm-hmm.
Tim, Lala.
Lala goes between Candy and Joey J.
Okay.
For me.
Okay.
Real solid queen is 1 or 2 years away from being big time if she does the right things in her career.
Sure.
Also, I think it was Lala Ree who produced single-handedly the runway entire series of Drag Race.
Wow.
It was a handmade garment challenge.
Wow.
Next is Olivia.
She's a work.
She's a work. Above. Let's go.
Yeah. Stunning looks, innovative designs. Just an artist. Maybe lacks some skills in the musical theater side of things. I forget if it was acting or singing that she kind of fell short on. Yeah, great queen. Great queen.
Next, for the love of all things pink, it's Rosé.
Rosé is a really, really good queen, but not my brand. So I'm going to go lowest on the work.
Lowest on the work. Okay. I like that explanation and that placement.
Yeah.
You've seen the season then, Dom.
Yeah, I crammed a bunch of highlights in the past week.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I did my homework for this tier list.
Yeah.
Okay.
Simone is up next.
Top of the top.
Top of the top. There we go.
No question.
Straight to S. Oh,
one of the most innovative African American queens on the series history.
Absolutely.
Brilliant work. Like a do-rag look that ran like a train behind her. So a naturally gifted comedian.
Mm-hmm.
She can deliver any line and make it hilarious. There's no fault with her, and she's truly as good as it gets.
It's gonna feel anticlimactic getting to the last three.
I know.
Okay, let's go through Tamisha and Vaughn.
I loved Tamisha in the early episodes because she was bitchy, and I lived for that. She brings like 40-year-old energy. Like, I am not into you kids being like 20-year-olds right now.
Yeah.
I'm here to do my job.
That's right.
But she also didn't deliver like she should have. She's gonna go around Joey J.
Like right.
No, Yeah, I'm gonna put her after Joe. Before Joey.
Before Joey. Okay.
Above Joey slightly.
Above Joey slightly. Tina Burner.
Right next to Candy. Below Candy. Good queen, funny queen. She needed to look like something other than Ronald McDonald on the show. His signature colors of ketchup and mustard.
Yeah.
Apparently she dated Graham Norton, and like Graham Norton has dated like several people I know at this point. Which is what? Huh? Friends don't let friends date Graham Norton. Is the lesson.
Oh my gosh.
Oh wow.
Good, really solid New York queen, but really underperformed on this show. And
Sure.
Bring it up.
Sure. So like solidly meh with the combination of that. And then last, I was going to say last but not least, but perhaps last and least, who knows?
I can't even tell from the picture.
That's Utica Queen.
Oh, Utica. Yeah, of course. Utica's going to go in the work.
Okay, good.
Okay.
And where in work?
I'm going to put her above Rosé. Or I'm sorry. One above Rosé.
One above Rosé. Okay.
Yeah. Her one, she's from Minnesota. So.
Oh, okay.
Utica, Minnesota.
Yeah.
She has can pull off fashion looks as good as like Gottmik or Simone.
Mm-hmm.
Was sort of a misfire on the show. Some of her humor really made you feel uncomfortable, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like she was sucking on the udder of a cow in really uncomfortable ways at one point, which made RuPaul cringe. And
if RuPaul is cringing, so yeah,
but I mean, it depends what you're looking for. From a fashion, and she was all that. And needs to learn a few other tricks, I think, to advance on that stage. So
I can get with that.
No juicy Uggs.
No juicy Uggs. Okay, safe. We're safe.
Sorry,
like you said, we're not being too shady here. So I guess this came up a couple weeks ago when someone asked why is it S. I think we can officially say S stands for sachet at this point. Yeah, there we are. Here is Tim Frandy's official season 13 tier list, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is this season 13 tier list. Everyone, screenshot this, take notes. This is how it stacks up. It's Folkwise official now. But that is to say, Tim, we've actually kept you a little longer, but there were some great questions, great answers, I should say, that you had. I don't want to keep you for too much longer. Do you have anything? Do you want to direct people to or plug right now?
Sure. I mean, if you're on Twitch, come to Vivacious NYC's stream and have some good queer fun.
Hell yeah!
4 days a week. I'm not over there, and that's a blast of weirdness and avant-garde stuff, and a good way to blow off some steam and listen to some tunes in the afternoon. And I guess I'll have a book out next spring on folklore work with a co-edited volume with Marcus Cedarstrom, and it's got it's a massive mistake. 35 essays in it, short essays by public folklorists all over the country. So hopefully that's going to be worth your time to look at.
And Daisy just dropped the Vivacious NYC link. Be sure to follow that. And yeah, you heard it. Salute mods all over the platform. Okay, the mods, including you, Daisy, including you, Tim. Way to go, mods! Everybody, I already see some ladders and some hearts for you. GGs to Tim. Thank you for this great night, and everybody, make sure to thank Tim on his way out. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Tim.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This has really been a blast.
Oh, I agree.
Catch you later on the stream. I'm going home now.
Catch you later.
Yeah. Well,
all right.
Thanks again for being on the show. This was awesome.
Yeah.
Quilts have had meaning on many levels. Making quilts helped me to get a sense of my own space, sense of finding my way, sense of really working my way out of the labyrinth.